What is up, everybody? It is the week of Thanksgiving. We are 2 weeks away from the start of most fantasy football playoffs. I am so ready. This is one of my favorite holidays of the whole year. If you can't tell, we're getting into some real serious weeks here. There's no going back. You are either good or you are bad at this point. If you're in a league where the trade deadline is passed, I am so sorry. You need to get a better league. If you're in a league that the trade deadline is this week, this might be the most crucial episode you have ever watched. So tune in again. Here we go. RPO football, the IDP 5, week 13. All right, guys, same format as every week. Too good, too bad, one sleeper. This week, one of my favorite players to talk about this week is Nakobe Dean, the Philadelphia Eagles linebacker. This year, I've been super high on Zach Bond. I've been high on Zach Bond since the preseason, and he has done very well. This past week was one of his first weeks, but he's still on fire. And I believe that he is going to be one of those guys that you can just plug and play for the rest of the season. But that doesn't mean he is the only person in Philadelphia that is worth starting at that position. Nakobe Dean is 23 years old, okay? He is an ascending player, and he is sneakily having a really, really good year. I know that there were some high expectations that came with him despite what he showed us last year. I think everybody was trying to see, okay, what's that next step going to be? Are we going to see him be an elite inside linebacker? And then there was kind of some up and down weeks. I don't think we got bad performances. I just don't think we got as high performances as we want. But right now, he's at the 84 tackle mark. He is disrupting the passing game, both defending passes and getting sacks on the quarterback. We are seeing him have a good season. Just because he's not performing like one of the best linebackers in the league doesn't mean that he is performing badly. Nakobe Dean is still a guy who is trending up. He is still a buy in dynasty formats. He is still 23 years old. So there is absolutely 1,000 reasons why you should want him on your team. And if you can still acquire him, he is definitely a buy. If you have him on your roster, it's going to be hard to put him on the bench. And I don't think you should, and I don't expect you to. The second player I'm going to talk about this week is rookie edge rusher Chop Robinson. I was very high on Chop Robinson in the preseason. He was one of my favorite prospects coming out of the draft. He's still one of my favorite prospects, but we all kind of knew that he was going to be a project player. He was going to take some time to develop. And I believe that we're finally seeing him take that first initial big step in the NFL. Since week 9, he has 8 total tackles, 3 of them are for losses, and 3.5 sacks, which is his complete sack total of the year. So we are starting to see him crescendo a little bit into the dog days of the league. And I believe that as he continues to get snaps, he will continue to get better. And the raw athleticism has never been a question with him. He is absolutely one of the most athletic people that was in this past draft class for the position. And I believe that when you have traits like that, if you have the work ethic, you can develop into an elite player. And as we're seeing with Chop Robinson, I believe he's putting in the time and effort. He is continually getting better each and every week. And because of this, we are seeing the on-field product look a lot better than it has to start the year. He has a couple of juicy matchups late, but one of them that I'm super pumped about is the Week 14 matchup, fantasy football playoffs, for the New York Jets. I believe that he has an opportunity to have a big game in that spot and could be a potential sleeper start if you need edge rusher help getting into or in the fantasy playoffs. But regardless, Chop Robinson is a dynasty buy. Obviously, he's a rookie. You probably won't be able to get him. Most people probably stashed him on a taxi squad or maybe a bench. But if they didn't, if he is somehow still available on your waiver wire in a keeper or a dynasty league, he absolutely is worthy of a bench spot to stash for next year and the upcoming seasons because I believe that once he figures out the NFL game, he could be one of the best pass rushers in the entire league. The first person I'm going to talk about negatively, I want to make sure that I clear up first. He is not necessarily performing badly. I believe that I'm going to temper my expectations for who he is moving forward, and that is Byron Young of the Los Angeles Rams. The Rams' defensive front is extremely impressive. You have Braden Fisk on the interior. You have Jared Verse on the outside, who's making a case for the defensive rookie of the year. So when you pair him up with somebody with Byron Young, who was having an absolutely stellar year last year, I should and I would expect Byron Young to also kind of have those same numbers. But to be completely honest with you, Young hasn't really done anything that he didn't do last season. We're seeing basically the same player. As a rookie, Byron Young had 8 sacks, pretty good, close to double digits, and he had 60 plus tackles. The tackle floor was what excited me the most about him because I believe that sacks will grow the better you become a pass rusher in the NFL. But if you have a stable tackle floor, that tells me that you can get the ball carrier on the ground when given opportunities to do so. So Byron Young having credible teammates on the defensive front with him should have allowed for more one-on-one opportunities for him to get sacks. The problem I'm seeing is he's not getting the sack production, or at least an increase in sack production, that you would expect from the year 1 to year 2 jump with better teammates. That doesn't mean he's bad. I'm not cutting him. I'm not trading him, but I am keeping my eye on him because he has had 3 straight weeks where we have seen point regression week over week. And that is always a red flag for me, especially this time of year, especially from this position, because people's bodies break down. They are human. I know they're superhuman at times, but they are human. So the later on we get into the year, these highly athletic defensive positions can sometimes start to wear down, and I'm worried that Byron Young is going to just be another guy as opposed to somebody who can steer you into a championship mentality. But regardless, I like Byron Young, but he is kind of bumming me out this week, and that is why he is the first person on my negative list. Second player that I'm kind of bummed out about, and it's truly because I think this is the burial process, is Trenton Simpson of the Baltimore Ravens. Trenton Simpson is playing a lot of snaps at the inside linebacker position. There's no question about that. He's a good depth piece linebacker, but this past week we saw or should have seen him with an opportunity to really separate himself from where we kind of have him in the middle tier to lower tier of linebackers with the absence of Roquan Smith. The problem is Trenton Simpson's numbers didn't really change that much. Instead, we saw Malik Harrison explode and basically fill in right where Roquan Smith kind of left us. So what does that tell us about Trenton Simpson? Well, to me, it tells me that he's just going to be who he is and that we need to now adjust our expectations and our mentality for what kind of player he is and just be okay with that. So what we see from him is a linebacker who is on the field, a linebacker who can do all the things pretty good, but not somebody that is going to strike fear in your opponent. You're going to get a 5 to 6 tackle a week type of guy, somebody you can put in there and you know you're not going to get skunked, which does have value. But Trenton Simpson, I think, especially when Patrick Queen left, I think everybody was really excited to see that next step. And maybe we have seen it, but it's not the step that everybody was hoping he would take into elite linebacker territory. And even without Roquan Smith this past week, he didn't really do anything to excite me for future prospects. So I'm just kind of bummed because I had higher expectations. But again, Simpson's a good linebacker. He's a good depth piece. But honestly, do depth pieces really win you championships? I mean, if you need one, throw in, fair enough. I'm not going to argue that point. But regardless, we all know stars are what get you to the Super Bowl. And Trenton Simpson, I think he's finally revealed to us he's just not going to be a star. And that's kind of a bummer. This week's sleeper is currently in a battle with Father Time, but one that I believe that he is winning for now. Jimmy Ward, the safety of the Houston Texans, is going to be thrust into a starter spot over the next couple of weeks due to the injury to Jalen Petrie. We have seen the Houston Texans safety score points at a high clip when given the opportunity. And most people know or have had at least one of these defensive backs at some point in time and can give credence to this argument. But Jimmy Ward, despite being damn near 33 years old, is a player who can get you consistent tackle floors. And we know that if you're in a spot where you absolutely have to pull somebody out your you know what, then Jimmy Ward is a good fill-in for this. You have to have somebody who can get tackles who will consistently score points. We also saw a little bit of what you can get from a guy like this. Last week he had a pick six. You're not going to plan for somebody to have a pick six every week, but the fact that this is still in his bag in year 11 tells me all I need to know, and that is he can and will affect matchups when given the opportunity. He is not somebody that the defense is going to be scared about. Quite frankly, he's somebody that defensive coordinators or offensive coordinators may not even realize is kind of out there. But I can assure you that if he is in your lineup, he will score. He will be a big-time player. He's at least going to keep you stable where you can win at the other positions, and sometimes that's all it takes. So Jimmy Ward might be this week's version of a Band-Aid if you have injury problems, but I think he's as good of a fill-in as anyone due to the fact that he is going to get an increased load of snaps, and snaps equals stats. Stats equal points. And as always, points equal wins. Jimmy Ward, the sleeper of the week. All right, guys, have a great holiday this week. My name is Matthew Montgomery. You can catch me on RPO's football YouTube page. You can catch me on all my socials at MattMontyFF. I do written content for football guys. Each week I have the IDP stock market, which goes live on Wednesdays. So make sure you go in there and you look at that. You tell me how right or wrong you think I am. As always, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed the hat. I hope you enjoyed the new Thanksgiving digs. I mean, we are so ready to go. It is the holiday season. We've got like 2 to 3 more fantasy matchups of the regular season, and then we are into the true money weeks. This is why we do this, baby. Let's win those Let's win those internet plaques and get ourselves through another cold but exciting holiday season.